Hi and welcome back. So this is my first official video. This is our first story therefore. Uh, Before there were any titles, before I became a founder, before I became a military spouse, before I became a lawyer, before anything that defined me or gave me an identity, I was just a little girl growing up in Kenya. And I was just trying to figure out how the world really works, like everybody else, you know? And I think we forget sometimes something important, that we don't just transition as adults. Our very first transitions happen when we are young, even 5 years old. I believe maybe younger. Hi, my name is Lydia, and on this channel, I share stories about real life and practical tools for us to navigate life's transitions, because change is inevitable, and so none of us have to feel alone while we grow. Let's talk a little bit about my childhood. I was born in a small town called Kisumu in Kenya. Shout out to my Kisumu people here. We called it Odhumo, or we called it Mboka. If you can relate, give me a thumbs up. My neighborhood was called Ondiek, and it was government housing, I believe. That's what I've come to understand now. But they were the most tranquil places to live and the most fun places to live. It was like everyone was for everyone. Every kid was for every kid. The neighborhood was so clean, but never quiet, because kids were playing everywhere. And you could, because the houses were also close to each other, we had bungalows, mostly 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom bungalows. And they were close to each other, and we traversed house to house without boundaries, by the way. There were no fences, none of that. You just went to your neighbor's house. You could smell someone cooking. What was our favorite those days was chapati. We could smell it from anywhere. And in fact, when we knew that someone was cooking that, we would talk to the one of our friends who lived in those houses to, get us some, And when we did too, kids would come and like, hey, Lydia, could you get us some chapatis, our favorites. And yeah, still my favorite today, one of my favorites at least. My mom was a single parent as far as my memory can serve me, and I can say she was the most loving person I know. My hero to date, my absolute hero. And I tell myself, if I can be half the woman that my mom is, this world would be a different place. So shout out to my mom, guys, please. Love was her foundation for everything. I believe most of us were not told I love you in those days. I'm a millennial, by the way. But well, I believe even some of our families still in Kenya, saying I love you is not something that comes naturally. So her way of showing love was in her daily actions. You could tell by the things she instilled in us in terms of values. Always saying, we sang songs like early to bed and early to rise, make someone healthier and wealthier and wise. And so just so she could make it easy for us to understand why she wanted us to wake up very early as 5 a.m., which I've carried to my life now. Very hardworking. There was nothing we lacked in terms of need. Once, maybe, but whenever she could, she provided it as much as she could, and with all the love in her eyes. And you could tell that, oh, this person really, really is here for me. What did I think life would be might have thought, this is heaven as far as I grew up. I don't know what you thought, but my childhood was just absolutely amazing and I think blessed. But there were some things that changed as time goes by. I will talk about them as we move in the series. Some good, some bad, some just general life things that happen, because life is a continuous transition, as we all know. And I didn't know it then, but even childhood is a series of transitions. For example, your first day of school. If you come from home and suddenly you have to go to this place where you stay, depending on your program, whole day or half day, you're meeting new faces, new adults. That's a transition right there. And sometimes kids don't find it easy to transition from that into school. And so what I found helpful, and I learned this, and my youngest now, who is 7, is the one who benefited. The older ones, I didn't go through it well. I didn't know. Now I know better, so I did better with my last child. Just taking them through what that might look like. So, do you know tomorrow is school, or do you know you're about to go to school? What are you looking forward to? What do you think tomorrow is going to be like, or when you're going to start school? What is most exciting for you? And we would read books about, I can't remember the name, but there's something, someone goes to kindergarten, and we would read the activities they were going to do. And so by the time she was going into preschool, I think she was prepared. Making friends. Kids don't just, sometimes depending on their temperaments, depending on their personalities, some don't make friends easy, some make friends easy. So as you know your child, even teaching them how to make friends, when you move grades, that can be something that a child can deal with in different ways. So you want to figure out how to support your child, especially if they're not moving with the same kids, which I know in the American system or the school district I am in, that doesn't happen. Every move to the next grade, there's like a whole set of different people, because they are mixed up and they rarely have the same friends they had previously. Feeling shy, feeling brave, or something like that. I remember when I went into first grade, I had a burn on my shoulder, and so I was in a lot of pain, and I was very nervous about how I would manage, because it was the first time I was going to school the whole day. Pre-K was half day. Excuse me. So being there the whole day excuse me, was a nerve-wracking experience. But I thank God that my first grade teacher, I can never forget this teacher. Her name was Mrs. Okita. God bless her soul. May she rest in peace. She was the absolute best. For a young 5-year-old, she did her absolute best to take care of me in that situation. She allowed me to come dressed differently, just so that my wound would not be affected. Sometimes I'd be in so much pain that she had to stop teaching, and home was just not very far from school, so it was a walking distance, maybe 5 minutes, and she would carry me back home. What a teacher. And that was a beautiful experience in first grade. I might have entered with a lot of anxiety, but because of how I was handled by my teacher, it became something I live to remember. Now, we all know no one calls it transition when you're a child. They just call it growing up, right? But still, it's an adaptation. It's a becoming. It is something that is new, right? Let's think about that. That's the end of my first story. And I want to remind you that this channel is me walking through my life, one transition at a time. Not because my story is special, but because maybe you'll see yours in it too. And we can learn together. We can pick out what we can use now, because at least there's something I want to share about what would have worked then or what we can do now to ease ourselves or others in transition. Next time I want to talk about school, the other part of school. And the first time I realized I was not as confident as everyone thought. So if this story resonated with you, subscribe and come back tomorrow. I'm telling this journey in order, one chapter at a time. I'm calling them series. And the next piece might just be the one you need most. See you in the next one.